guys, what's up? My name is Elizabeth and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in this video, we are going to learn about how to exegete a text. So yes, I have created a 4-week personal exegetical study guide for you. That is right, and it's going to be free down in the description box below, so you guys can take the guide with you, read it over, and copy it over if you choose to do so. The only thing I do have to say is that because I did end up adapting it and creating it from Grasping God's Word, I just suggest for copyright issues only is that you do reference both of that. That is taken from Grasping God's Word, written by, I can't remember their name, but I have that in the description box below, and to also credit me for the one who actually adapted this into a 4-week study plan. So yes, and also I believe if you open up the PDF of it, it's going to have a watermark just for that safety of the copyright issue, but it still would be readable for you and it would be free. So go check that out in the description box below, and then we'll get started and I'll dig deeper into what I'm actually talking about. So with that being said, let's just jump right in and get started. So yes, we're going to talk about how you're going to exegete a text in 4 weeks with only about 15 to 17 minutes. That's right, 15 to 17 minutes per day. Now you don't have to do this per day. You could probably sit down and work on it 2 hours per week or something like that, give and take. But I did have it for more of a morning thing. If you wanted to implement it in your quiet time with God each morning, so I created it with that in mind, because I know as people, sometimes we don't have that much time in the day, especially as lay people, right? We don't have necessarily a career in ministry. And sometimes when I feel like exegetical guides are made, they're made for people who are students or who are ministers, and that's all they have time for. That's all they do in the day, right? But what about those folks who don't? So that's why I created that. So with that whole explanation set aside, let's just jump right in and start it. Okay, so in week 1, you will be looking at the background and literature context. You'll just only be looking at that, background and literature context. So for day 1, you will be praying over and picking a passage. However, I specifically suggest that leading up to this preparation of starting to study the specific text, I suggest you start looking at what kind of text you want to be looking at. But this is going to, the first day you're going to look at and solidify, this is the passage. Now I suggest that the passage be around 6 to 8 verses long, no more than 8 verses really, because you want to make sure that you're really getting deep down into the verse that you are, in the passage that you're looking at. Then after that, for day 2, you're going to be looking at the book's overview. So you're going to be looking at if it's from the Old or New Testament, the specific type of book it is, the main issue, that is the main context, what is really happening around this whole reason why the writer wrote what he wrote, and the main solution / theme, or at least the main solution / theme that you perceive while you read it for a quick run through. It might change later on. Then in day 3, you're going to look at most likely a commentary. Now, hey, want you to be careful. Don't be tempted to go look through the entire commentary. All I want you to do is look at the commentary enough to look at the book's outline. Okay, that's why I just want you to look at the book's outline. So in most exegetical ideas, you want to read the whole context, as in the whole book. But however, since we have literally sized it down to only 4 weeks long, looking at the book outline will help you a lot to understand the bigger picture of the passage. Then in day 4, you're going to be looking at the literature context. What does that mean? We're going to look at the authorship, or who wrote the book. Now remember, God inspired the men to write what they wrote, but we're going to look at who the men God used to write the book. We're going to be looking at the date. We're going to be looking at the setting. When was the book written, right? We're going to look at the type of literary genre. Is it letter? Is it prophecy? Is it poetry? What type of literature genre are we looking at? Then we're going to look at the purpose. Why did the writer write what he wrote? Then in day 5, we're going to be looking at the background, cultural context of what is happening. We're going to look at who are the people that the writer is writing to, right? So that's what we're going to really look at when we look at the background, cultural context, is who is the writer writing to, what are they like, where are they living, that kind of questions like that, okay? Then in day 6, you want to start reading the surrounding text. And what I mean by that is, though we most likely won't have time to look at the entire book for say, I highly do suggest reading at least the chapter before, the chapter of the passage that you are reading, and the chapter after. And I want you to summarize each. I want you to summarize the chapter before, summarize the chapter after, and summarize the chapter that you're actually reading in. And then after that, in day 7 is just conclusion. Mainly for this day is more of a catch-up day that is going to allow you to kind of just look over the entire week of understanding the background and literature context. Now, I will say for that specific things, I did not do an exhaustive list, okay? Because the whole PDF would be quite long if I made an exhaustive list. So, therefore, I'm trying to make this as simple as possible, okay? So, I highly suggest you watch this video and look at the guide and use that hand to hand, okay? So, then we're going to move on and look at week 2, okay? And we're going to look at the exegesis. We're going to exegetize the text, and we're going to do a word study. Okay, so in day 1 through 3, we're going to exegetize the text. This is where we're going to look at the text and read it in depth. We're going to underline the points. We're going to ask the questions. How does this point relate to that point, right? That's how we're going to look at that. Then in day 4 to 6, you're going to work on a word study. You're going to pick a specific word that really stuck out to you, and then after that, or that seems to indicate a lot of meaning in the text, right? Or it's used often, you're going to take that, and what I suggest is that you go and look up the original meaning to that word. Now, I'm talking about a lot of things that I'm not going in depth, so I'll have links down in the description box below of other resources that can help you work through this guide. Then in week 3, so exercise the text and word study is going to be week 2, where you're going to spend half your time on exercising the text and the other half in word study. Then in week 3, you're going to dive deeper. This is where you're going to really look at the similarities and difference. What's the difference between their culture and our culture today? We're going to look at what the text actually means to the original audience, but what it also means to us to this day. This is also where we're going to get commentaries helps. We're going to read commentaries, but we'll also want to make sure that we come up with our own thoughts and through prayer and reading and meditating upon God's word. But we're also going to use commentaries to make sure that we're on track, right? And then in week 4, we're going to just put this all together. So in week 3, that's all you're going to do. Okay, so now in week 4, we're going to put it all together, okay? So in day 1 through 2, you're just going to spend your time organizing notes, reviewing what you have studied. Then in day 3, you're going to come up with the theological principle. This principle needs to pretty much be a principle that doesn't matter where you are, where you live, what time period, it is going to stand throughout time, culture, history, people, whatever. That's what a theological principle is. Then is day 4. Then you're going to come up with application. How does the theological principle, for instance, thou shalt not murder, you should not murder, how does that apply to me today? Well, that implies that I shouldn't go kill someone. That's a simple version of that, but you understand what I mean. Something that you take the theological principle and then relate it to you to this day. Then in day 5 to 6, you're just going to check your work. This is also a way for you to just review what you have looked at and check it, catch up, whatever you need to do. Then on day 7, you're going to share your work. This is pretty much where you're either going to store your work or you're going to share it with other people. So yeah, that was a very quick run through of the 4 weeks personal exegetical guide, and I just really hope this helps you to get started. I know this is not an exhaustive list. I highly suggest you get Grasping God's Word, which is an awesome book that I actually adapted this simpler guide from, but there's also details and information in there that I did not share in this. Also, if you want a more simplified version that this 4 weeks guide isn't taken off, but it's also a good resource, is Jen Wilkins' Women of the Word book. And I'll also have some other links, videos, and helpful resources down in the description box below so that you can really have the tools for the 4 weeks personal exegetical study guide. And I really hope that sometime in the future I can work on doing more of the piece by piece, diving deeper into this 4 weeks personal exegetical guide, as in telling you guys, how do you do a word study? What do you look for when you exegete a specific text? I did tell you to do that, but I didn't go into specific details. But I'll have another video down below from other people as well. But I hope to do one in the future if God wills. So, I know I said a lot, but I really hope you guys check that out. It's been something I've really been working on very hard, because I really wanted a way for people to study God's Word in a very easy, accessible manner that won't take 8 hours per day to do so, like a pastor, right? Yes, maybe you won't get this done in a week, but over 4 weeks, you'll be able to come back and look at it and see that you have exegeted the text. So, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope I see you guys next time. Please subscribe, push that bell button to get notifications. Just check all the resources in the description box below. Comment down below, and I think that's it. So, I'll see you next time. God bless you.